Hi everyone, welcome to the next Fire Chief update. It's been a few months since we've had a chance to kind of catch up on some things. Last time I talked with you, it was a much darker time and certainly a colder time. It was in the winter, and I would hope that everybody feels the same way as I do, that things have certainly changed and are brightening up. We've got spring in the air, we've got warm weather, we got Padre baseball. So again, I am very optimistic for where we're at, and although I know we're not out of the woods here with COVID yet, I certainly no longer look at it as looking through my windshield, and now really in the peripheral in my side view mirror, and hopefully soon to have it in our rear view mirror as we move forward on this thing. So I'm very optimistic of where we're at and the progress that we've made. Speaking of COVID and vaccines, we are looking at how we're going to reintroduce some of the activities in the department. We really feel like it's time to start at least making the plans and moving forward with that. We're talking about things like multi-company drills, certainly the county wildland drill that we're going to participate in. And so I'm sure with all of you guys been cooped up for as long as we have, that you're probably looking forward to any opportunity to get out and do the things that we normally do, and we're part of our routine. And I bet that even goes as far as saying everybody's probably looking forward to fire company inspections again. So again, I can't say it enough. Thank you very much for doing everything that you've done. On the vaccine front, I understand that our support of the vaccine sites has been at a tremendous sacrifice of a lot of our employees. Not only the ones who have volunteered to give it at those sites, but certainly the ones that are backfilling at fire stations as well. I feel like it's very important that we continue to support these sites to our best of our ability. To continue our interactions with the community, not only a political support for us, and you've certainly seen us in the headlines and on the news, on the newspaper, of the firefighters active in the community. It has gone a long ways. We want to continue this. With that, we do start to plan an exit strategy. We don't want to be in this game forever, and we understand the staffing impacts it has on you and your family. We also know that we're heading into a busier fire time for us, and so we want to start making those plans. We really think that we will be completely out of the vaccine business by the end of May, by Memorial Weekend. With that, we've brought on some additional help. We've entered into some agreements with CSU San Marcos to be able to provide nursing students to help us in that staffing and supplement there. So I think you're going to see our commitment that we have to provide at those sites start to decrease and better our ability to be able to staff our fire stations. And so again, just a phenomenal job with the vaccines. I want to send a special shout out to the lifeguards. This is not anywhere in with their scope of what they thought they'd be doing. They have certainly stepped up. Every day I go over to the vaccine sites, I see just dozens of the seasonal lifeguards participating and helping out. And so I really want to give a shout out to those folks as well who have made this such a success on there. Let's talk a little bit about staffing and promotions. We're currently holding an engineer exam. The written exam was April 6th. We're still waiting for the results on that and begin the manipulative testing at the beginning of May. We know that we have a current captain's list and a lot of anxious people on that list ready to get promoted. I just ask for your patience again. I hope you can understand the impacts that would have if we made some captain promotions without having the backfill of the engineer of a current engineer list. We really see the timing kind of lining up with the graduation of the 91st Academy. We expect to have a new engineer list by the end of June. The 91st graduates at the end of June as well, and then hopefully we'll be able to tie in some of the captain promotions at the same time. But again, this is all really contingent on the engineer promotions. That we didn't see the numbers that we were hoping for the engineer promotions. I understand that we have a very young workforce, and that certainly plays into a lot of the decisions about whether to take the exam or not. And so we are still trying to evaluate how we can maybe better the numbers, and really incentivize that a little bit more, or speed it along the process. On the 91st Academy, we still have 29 recruits. We've only lost one so far. They're about 4 weeks away from testing. They graduate June 26th, so we look forward to them coming out. I just completed the interviews for the 92nd Academy. We finalized it down to about 64 people that I interviewed and sent over 30 names for that, and so we will be issuing out conditional job offers to those 30 folks. That academy is going to start on July 12th, and then we've got future academies built into our next fiscal year. But this will be the last academy done on the current list. If you know folks that are in the testing process, you know that they just took a written test last week. It's going to take a couple of months for personnel to promulgate that list, and then we should have a new eligibility list sometime in June or early July, and that'll be for the 93rd Academy and on from there. Paramedic Class 4 graduates April 28th. We made the decision to have a ceremony. We're going to do it outside at the Oregon Pavilion. It'll be very small, socially distanced, but I feel like those folks need the recognition, and we need to try to honor them with some graduation ceremony versus a virtual appearance on screen. And so I look forward to that, and that is 15 folks going to graduate from Class 4 paramedic school. Speaking of staffing, I want to send a special shout out to a gentleman who so many of us had the pleasure to work with for nearly 36 years. But lifeguard John Ball recently retired. I visited him in on his last day. And, you know, just listening to the folks telling the stories and the folks that showed up there and talked about him, you know how well liked he is. He's a jack of all trades, and we are going to really miss John, but we congratulate him on his retirement and wish him the best. A lot of us remember training on that old 2-story wood structure and how outdated it is. Thanks to Alex Kane, his project management skills. I'm here at the new training prop right now. Has roof ventilation, interior hose management and attack, as well as forcible entry. Just a terrific prop down here. I hope you get a chance to come down here and check it out. Again, this is really being forced out of some of the buildings in NTC and having to work outside on these props. This is just a phenomenal piece that we were able to purchase through JAC funds and Fire Tech. I mentioned to you upcoming fire season, and so sure, we've battled through COVID, we're battling through vaccine support, and now we're moving into the peak part of our fire season. I know we say it every year, it's going to be a terrible year, and mark my words, this is going to be a terrible year. We have seen drought like we haven't seen before. All the western states have. Oregon is going through the same thing as we are. Our snowpack is at 59% of what it should be. We know that we have not received nearly as much rain as our averages, and so we are bracing ourselves for a record fire season. A lot of preparations being made at the state level. The governor has designated a lot of money, not just to prevention and brush management, but also to the fire suppression side on CAL FIRE. And so again, a lot of plans are in place, and we expect a very busy fire season. EMS contract update. So most of you have either read or maybe even sat in on the council meeting last week, but council voted unanimously to have us go ahead and proceed with the contract with Falck Ambulance. This has been a multiple year process. As you know, we started this nearly 3 years ago. In the development of the first RFP, it went through. Finally, there was some protests on that one. We had a second one, and Falck has won again on that. This had to do with a lot of prep work in advance of council, asking a lot of questions, briefing them on some of the improvements and enhancements that we would see in the system. And so after a very painful many hours that day, we got through successfully, and so we will proceed along. The timeline of that, there'll be a second reading on April 27th. That should go on consent unless it's pulled, and then 30 days after that, the mayor can go ahead and execute the contract. What that does is begin the 6-month transition with Falck as we start the lame duck period with AMR, and we start those plans with Falck and how they're going to roll in. I can tell you that my staff has already met multiple times with Falck. They're already planning with the ambulance prototypes, the communications, everything to where they're going to lease their headquarters, new uniforms. All of that stuff is already in the process, just because we can't wait till we're at 6-month time frame. We want to get ahead of this thing. What I can tell you, a lot of people ask me, well, why did you really support Falck in this process? What I can tell you is there was 2 main drivers on that. One, I stand by the RFP process. The city has a competitive bid process for a reason. We went through that process twice. The integrity of the RFP was there. It was fair. It was solid. And so I certainly stood by the process, hands down, with whoever was going to win that bid. Secondly, The increased ambulance hours, and I know that there's been a lot of talk about this over-promising, and are they going to be able to comply with that? Well, you know what, that's our job to enforce that and monitor that. But as the fire chief, it would be irresponsible for me to ignore that additional ambulances out there, understanding the impact that it has on our workforce out there, and the reduced time that you're sitting at scene with a patient awaiting an ambulance. And so certainly it's going to be a challenge for Falck. We're going to work with them on that, but that's nothing to turn a blind eye to, an additional 10 to 14 ambulances a day out on the streets, and recognizing the benefits that we're going to have operationally. So I'm glad to see that moving forward, and I look forward to working with Falck in the future. So let's talk a little bit about now FY22 budget. So this has been also a long process. We've had multiple renditions of this. You've got to remember, when we first put together our FY22 budget, we had no idea what the federal relief package was going to be. We were looking at significant reductions. Fire department was asked to put $5.5 million in reductions on the table as a proposed possibility. I can tell you now that with the identified relief money that's come in, that those reductions have been pulled back. And so that is very fortunate. We had to revise our budget on those numbers now and push them forward. Tomorrow, April 20th, the mayor proposes his budget to City Council, and it's already a public document out there. I'm happy to report that none of those reductions that we were required to put on the table have been taken. The fire department is not going to see any of those reductions. And in fact, we are going to get the majority of our additions that we asked for. At the time, it was not the right time to be asking for new positions, new programs. We were really looking at items that we needed to add to our budget to right-size it, to further subsidize or stabilize that going forward on some of the things that we did not have ongoing budget for. And so some of the additions that you see, we got a third academy for FY22 to assist in our staffing challenges that we have here. We've got the Advanced Lifeguard Academy that we have to go back for and ask. It's not an ongoing identified item in our budget. If you remember, we had an AFG grant. Well, that comes with matching funds. And so that was the grant that brought in our wildland PPE that's soon to come, as well as our fitness equipment. There's a matching portion of that the city has to be able to provide. I can happy to see that we got the funding for structural PPE. We have continued to fall behind on our replacement schedule for our PPE and meeting the 10-year change-out time. So I was happy to see nearly $300,000 added to our budget for structural PPE. We've seen a lot of IT items that were added into our budget that we asked for. I know that these are not a lot of items that everybody gets excited about at the coffee table in the fire station, but they are much needed. The ones that I do know that will impact you is we've received funding for the upgrade to our networking of the stations. And so better network means better connectivity for you, and that's a complaint that I often hear of. Some software licensing upgrades that we certainly needed is going to be added. The Choice Backup Dispatch Center, again, not a sexy item that everybody wants to talk about, but it's a much needed. We have no place that we were going to go if we had a catastrophic failure at ECDC. We have invested money in the last couple of years into a backup dispatch center at Choice, and I'm happy to report that now this is going to be the final funding that we needed to cross through that. Other things that we saw in there, wellness, we had about $300,000 added to our budget for wellness. This is not an increase in wellness services. This is, again, just to make us whole, to right-size our wellness budget. We have been running at a deficit every year. We've seen an increase in psychological services that we contract with Focus on, and so we needed that additional money to be added to our budget, and so we were very pleased to see that as well. And so a lot of it was on the technology side and equipment, non-personnel expenses certainly, but a very good budget if you really take it into context and perspective of where we're at. There was a placeholder in, and you can see it in the mayor's budget, for labor negotiations that is still ongoing. So at the time of his release and his proposal of the budget to council tomorrow, they have still not reached agreement with any of the labor groups that are in negotiations right now, and so that is still a big unknown. We can look at the placeholder amount, and without knowing really where they're going to finalize all of the different labor groups on what the salary increases are going to be, I can share with you that both myself and the police chief we are voicing our strong recommendation that they consider public safety and make sure that we are somewhere in the top of the list. And I get that there's competing priorities with the 6 labor groups. Of course, we're selfish and we look at what our folks need and what they deserve in the salary gaps there. We can look at the amount and know that it is not going to meet everybody's needs throughout the labor group. And so I think we're far from reaching an agreement on that as far as what the city management's going to offer to the labor groups and any of that. But I can tell you that both the police chief and myself have voiced our concerns and want to make sure that they hear us loud and clear that public safety needs to be a priority in this. The mayor has committed to that in the past. I do think that this is not going to be a one-year fix. The mayor has made it very clear that they're going to use that $306 million that they got for relief and spread that over 3 years, that they do not plan on right-sizing all of the salary gaps that they know, that big deficiencies in there. They're not going to fix that in a one-year time span, that it's going to be a multiple-year process to bring the employees' compensation package up to where it should be, as well as the city's infrastructure. So we will stand by to see what the mayor does and the negotiation teams. Along the budget lines, I want to talk about CIP priorities. I have been very clear that we have 5 CIP priorities that we are pushing forward and want to keep movement on. We've got the Fairmont Fire Station, as well as the Phase 2 of the air operations, the hangar that's going to go onto the living quarters there. We've got the OB Lifeguard Tower. We've got Torrey Pines Fire Station, and we've got the Black Mountain Ranch Fire Station. I know that it doesn't always make sense to everybody as far as how these things go along in the timeline, but unfortunately right now, the Fairmont Fire Station does not have CIP funding behind it. We're still trying to work our way towards some kind of a CIP funding for the hangar at Air Ops. I can tell you that we have had to go back and maybe downsize what our initial plans were to make this more feasible for the city to consider. But right now, we're still seeing some challenges on the CIP funding for that, as well as the OB station. The 2 projects that you are going to see move faster than I think most people thought is Fire Station 48 and Black Mountain Ranch and Torrey Pines Fire Station on UCSD campus. That's because both of those projects are fully funded. The developer has already funded Fire Station 48. The bids are due by the end of April, and so we should be moving forward on that. And as you know, UCSD is also fully funded the Torrey Pines Fire Station, and the city received over $20 million a while ago for that. It's been sitting in an escrow account. We are receiving community input as far as the design and look of the station on the campus, and then we'll be moving forward on those. Again, the priorities may not make sense because as you look at where service gaps are and call volumes, certainly those 2 fire stations are not the ones that scream out and say, this is where we need the services, but this is really where the funding is and where the city can move forward on faster than you would think. Some additions coming to our heavy fleet. We have been extremely happy with the tractor-drawn aerial. I hope you guys are as well. And so with that, our next 3 trucks that are allocated for purchase will be tractor-drawn aerials. I believe the 3 stations that are coming up are Station 20, 21, and 29. We will continue to support the tractor-drawn aerial platform as long as the station that's being assigned to can accommodate those. Another one that we're really looking at, that we are looking at replacing immediately, is the crash rigs at 43s and at 28s, the P19s. Way overdue, have exceeded their life expectancy. We're working with the municipal airports to see really what they need. There are a lot of options out there. We're looking at everything from replacing the P19s, retrofitting them, maybe just having an extra engine company up in that area. So some of those options have been explored. Some recommendations will be made, and we'll be moving forward on that. We've got a new heavy rescue in the works there. We've got 1 new brush rig, and we've got 4 Type 1s that are all in the next round of heavy fleet replacement. So I've been asked a lot about my position on the Relief Association name change. Today being April 19th, knowing that the vote is ending today, this message will get out after that. So in no way will this message be influential or try to campaign on one way or the other. But when I am asked what is my position as the fire chief and as a member of the Relief Association about the name change, I strongly support it. It is long overdue, it's much needed, and as the fire chief, I need that name change to be, I need the name of that organization organization to be all inclusive of our members so that we can continue our partnership, our collaboration, and working at these events and fundraisers to make sure that we are representing all of our workforce, and that goes from the name as well. And so I 100% support the name change, and I'm very optimistic that it's going to be successful in the vote. Future training sites. So we have gone from Copley design to maybe sharing a facility with PD at One Police Plaza, the old Chargers facility. I can tell you there has been a lot of meetings and discussions on that, and making sure that both public safety agencies are going to meet their needs long-term, not just a short-term fix. We know that we've got to be out of NTC anywhere between 2025 and no later than 2027, and we are well into the 5-year period that we need to already be working on some of these projects. The team has met with police. Police has had a lot of changes to their training needs, moving their K-9 and SWAT and some of their traffic division down to One Police Plaza. They have identified what their footprint is of about a 19-acre area down there, and how much of that 19 acres they will need. It will not meet our needs for a future training site. It is just not going to be enough room. We are going to be pushed off to an area and limited in how much we can grow there, and it's just not going to suit our long-term needs. So we are now back to looking at the Copley location up there in Claremont Mesa. If you recall, that's about 24 acres. It's going to be involved in a land swap with the water district for the property down here at NTC, but it comes with a big price tag, and that is certainly concerning and something that nobody's really wanted to talk about in the last year or so. What we are asking for now is about $700,000 to do what we call a feasibility study. For us to have any idea of how much this is going to cost and what the possibilities are on this, we really have to have some concrete estimates on that. Right now, these have just been best guesses, and so we are lobbying for the money to go ahead and do a feasibility study. We still look at that as the best site. It's long-term. It definitely comes with a bigger price tag, which could involve bonds and however else the city may look at financing this. But again, the 8th largest city in the fire department is not going to have a training site after 2025, 2026 if we don't get this ball rolling now. So this has been communicated to the mayor, as well as all of the folks that sit on the CIP decisions and on the finance side, and certainly all the council members have been briefed on the need to keep moving forward. I'm going to close out this video with acknowledging 2 programs that we've seen down here at NTC lately that have been just great to come down and visit. And one's a new program, one's an existing program that we've had for many years. The first one is the Women's Fire Prep Academy. And I want to say thank you to Selena Aniel for really all of her efforts in here. We are mirroring something that LA County has been successful in operating, and so I was very pleased to come down here on week 2 and encouraged by what I've seen down here and really where this program might go. Lastly, I want to say a big thank you to Amber Tadeo and her team for the Girls Empowerment Camp. I was down here Saturday morning for the opening ceremonies, as well as I came down here Sunday afternoon for the closing ceremonies. The excitement, the energy of the kids, the parents, the instructors. We had over 122 campers is what was reported to me, as well as over 100 volunteers and staff down here. We could not have done it without Amber and her team leading the way, their passion, their motivation to make sure that this was an impactful camp for all of every participant out there. I got so many thank yous from the parents, for the department for continuing to support this. And so again, Amber, thank you for that. It was a huge success. All of the council members who were down here and the mayor as well were very pleased, so thank you. And that's all I've got for you on this video. I know next one we'll be entering into peak fire season, summertime. We'll have some more developments on the EMS contract, so there'll be a lot more to update you on the next video. Until then, stay safe and thank you.